Hi, I'm Paige, a very Paige, coming from you in my 5th day of self-quarantine. I got stuck in Louisiana right before the shit kind of hit the fan. So I got home and I have been under a mandatory, well not mandatory, but if you've been traveling, you really should go under a bit of self-quarantine so that you aren't putting anybody else in danger. I've had a couple people reach out to me and want to know how to make face masks to help our healthcare professionals. A lot of hospitals are asking that we sew fabric face masks that go over the mask that they're using to protect them from the virus, so that they can extend the mask or the length of the mask underneath because there's a big shortage. I know that this is controversial to be even in a position where we have to use these. They're not effective really at preventing transmission of the virus. They're more effective if you're already sick, and if you cough, they stop the droplets from going, but they aren't super effective in preventing the virus. If you're gonna wear these to help prevent the virus in a healthy person, you should be wearing a full face shield, another mask underneath, or have a filter in here. But that being said, some hospitals are asking for them all the same, and I know it helps me to be able to help people. He's getting stir crazy too. Help people when things like this happen. So I'm gonna show you how to make this. This is the, I don't know if it's the FU or the FU face mask. I've had a lot of doctors and nurses online say that they prefer a contoured mask because it fits better. I also included a nose wire, which I don't think the other pattern included. And I left the opening on the lining part right here open so I could flip it. People were worried that that would let more stuff through, but like I said, you should really be wearing these with additional protection. If you're worried about yourself and just want to make these for yourself, please wear it with additional protection. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a disease scientist, so I can't tell you what is going to be the safest, but I know I had a couple people ask me how to do these, so let's make them. So I'm using the FU or FU face mask. I'll link it in the description below, which I saw one hospital had been requesting be sewn. I think this style is easy to wear over the kind of mask that you need to use, and so that's why they like it, but it's just what I chose. You do have to add seam allowance to it, so make sure you're doing that before you cut it out. I just picked 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is what my foot is set to. Made it really easy. I cut out 4 pieces of this because you need a lining and you need your exterior fabric. I also cut out 12-inch long by about 1-inch long pieces instead of ribbon because I don't have any ribbon, and I'm just gonna sew these together and make little tube ties out of them. Super easy. You basically just put right sides together for the lining pieces and the main fabric pieces. Same with the tubes. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna stitch along that curve. And I think I started with the ties, so I'm basically just making a square stitch right at the end. And then I'm not bothering to square stitch the top because I'm gonna turn them out and we're just gonna put that end into the seam anyway, so they don't need to be finished. So what I did was on my outer fabric, I sewed all the way down that curve. And on my inner fabric, the lining fabric, I left a hole. So I finished the stitch, and then I picked up my needle, and then I moved it down, and then I finished it again, leaving enough room to turn it out. I think they placed the hole on a different spot in the instructions for the pattern originally, but it just was easier for me to do it this way, and with the fact that I know that they're going to be wearing either a face shield or another mask underneath, that I think that's okay. Again, I'm not a professional, but if you want to move the hole to a different location, it's super easy. We would just do it in the next step. I used a tube turner and turned out all the little tiny tubes. The pattern said to use 12-inch pieces of ribbon. I think that again, I have a big head. That might be a little small. If I was to make them again, I'd add an extra couple inches just so I could give myself a nice bow on the back. And then the pattern has markings on where you're supposed to place the ties. So you want to reference your pattern if you need to, and go ahead and put the ties in the right spot. See, I'm doing it right there. And then you're going to pin them or clip them in. And the hardest part is the next step, where you are sewing completely around the edge of it. Again, if you wanted to move the hole where you turned it out, you could do that and put it anywhere along the seam here. But you want to make sure you're not sewing over the ties. So take your time, use your fingers, feel, make sure there's no extra bulk in the fabric. But we're basically just going to sew all around right here. And again, super easy. Make sure you're not catching the ties except at the very top of the seam right there. And again, if you're making these for a hospital, call them first and see if they need them, and then ask them what pattern they want and ask them if there are any specifications. I know they also need surgical caps right now, so that might be a good option if you're nervous about making a mask. But again, these need to be worn with secondary protection. These aren't going to filter out the virus particles, unfortunately. So here I'm going to show you, I'm just turning it out, and that doesn't matter what hole or where you put it, you just turn it out. I also added a piece of floral wire, which I curved at the end so it didn't poke through, and just whip stitched it to the bridge of the nose seam allowance area to get a better fit. I ladder stitched closed the opening. Wherever your opening is where you're going to close it. And then I pressed it, and that's kind of where we are right now. And I think I'm pretty happy with it. I hope that helps some of you. I know it's a really scary and hard time, but we got to do what we can to get through it. I hope everybody stays safe. Stay inside if you can. If you're a non-essential person, the people who are holding together our entire country right now are medical, healthcare people, our grocery people, our delivery people. Thank you. I know you're scared too. I hope we can all just stay inside and flatten the curve. But I have maybe 2 more sessions to do before I am out of work, so expect a little bit more sewing from me in the future. I had to cancel all of my photography sessions in March, and I am going to cancel all of them in April too. I can't in good conscience work that close to people and be confident that I am not spreading anything. Many people are asymptomatic. And again, I'm not a doctor. I understand the basics of sterilization, but if people don't know they're contagious, and let's say I don't know I'm contagious and I keep doing sessions, like this week alone, that's 9 people that I could have infected. So I just want to keep myself safe, my clients safe, my makeup artist safe. But it is scary because as a self-employed person, I am not eligible for any financial assistance. There is the small business loan that I can take out, but that's scary in itself. I don't want to have to take out a loan, and if I take it out now, am I taking it out too soon, and how much money do I take out, and just the thought of having to pay it back, and it's scary. So I think if we can all just be here for each other, and I know that making these masks is helping a lot of people feel more in control. Let's work on the things that we can personally control in our environment. Feel free to use the comments to talk about your feelings, or, you know, tell me what you're doing to help yourself stay in control, and please just stay inside. All right, I'll see you guys soon, I'm sure. I've got a lot of fabric and nowhere to go. All right, until then, keep stitching.